And we've got Robbie Arnott, the wonderful author. We just read his latest book, Limberlost, coming to us all the way from, is it Hobart, Tasmania?
Yeah, I'm here in Hobart.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much for joining. So, Robbie Arnott, you've been writing since 2018 with your first published book, Flames. Is that right?
Yeah, that's when it came out. Yes.
Yes, but you were writing it long before then, I imagine.
Yeah, a little bit before 2018. Yeah, for a couple of years. Yeah.
Robbie, did you receive my list of questions today? Did that get through to you?
Yes, I did. I had a quick look. I also have a day job and a 7-month-old daughter, so I haven't really dived into too much detail. But
that's okay. Well, we're just so happy that you're with us, and we'll move right along so that you can spend time with your wife and daughter. No, all right. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. So, tell us a bit about young Robbie. What were you like as a kid, and what was your relationship with reading when you were growing up?
Yeah, well, I was quite a bookish young kid. I grew up in northern Tasmania, in Launceston and the Tamar Valley, and I was always very bookish. That's the house I grew up in. I have an older sister, and she was allowed to go to bed later than me because she could read when I was about 4 or 3. I was so annoyed by that I picked up reading very quickly because I wanted to be able to start late.
Excellent.
I think it was quite clever of my mother to implement that rule, but I never looked back from there. My parents were reasonably strict, but the one thing we always had was books, whether from the bookshop or the library in Launceston. So I just grew up surrounded by books constantly. I was always surprised that other people didn't, to be honest. It was, it really got hooks in me.
Yeah. And was there a particular book, and I know this is a bit of a silly question really, because when you are a reader, lots of books have massive impact on you, but is there one that comes to mind when you were growing up that really hit you hard?
It's hard to think when I was a lot younger because I read so much, kind of just churning through every book I could get through, particularly from the ages of like 8 to 14. But I think it all changed a little when I read through every book in the house, every kind of young fantasy or sci-fi or all those sorts of books. And my mum gave me a copy of Slaughterhouse-Five.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't want to read it because I thought that's a boring adult book. And I tried some of my dad's books and I just hated them because I thought they were boring. And I read Slaughterhouse-Five and I just didn't know you could write something so out there and interesting and experimental, but also filled with so much emotion and pathos and sadness and humor. And it just really knocked me sideways. And I think that was the one that really set me on the path of reading books that were written for adults and thinking about books differently.
That's interesting because Flames, I watched a little clip that you had put together for some high school students who might have been studying Flames. And one of the things that you said was, I gather that you're probably reading Flames, and sorry, it's a bit bizarre. And, and it is, there's a lot going on in that book as well. So it's interesting that you mentioned Slaughterhouse-Five, and even though they're, contextually completely different books, you pack a lot of elements into Flames as well. And there's, a lot of magical realism, a lot of things in real life. So I'm kind of not surprised by that. That's quite wonderful to hear.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I just wrote that book as something that I would want to read. And I wanted to write about where I was from in heaps of different ways. And I wanted to see if I could make it make sense as a novel. It was all just like a very self-indulgent experiment, to be honest. I didn't actually think, I didn't have a publishing contract or anything. I didn't think it would get published. I just was having absolutely no luck writing anything else. So I thought, why don't I stop trying to write what I think books should be like and just start writing what I want to write? And it worked out in the end.
That's awesome. That's a really good takeaway, actually, isn't it? Don't you think? Yes, not what you think others are going to want to read, but what it is that you want to read. Yeah, that's awesome. I like that.
Yeah,
so sorry, you go.
No, I think that's important. As soon as you start trying to write stuff that you think other people want to read, you kind of start second guessing yourself and not producing your best work, I don't think. I think if you can stay really interested in it, you just have to trust that other people will be too. Bit of a risk, but it's the only way to make anything that really feels like it matters, I think.
So when was it that you decided that you might like to be a writer? Because prior to that, you were working in advertising. Is that right?
Yeah, I was. I still do a couple of days a week.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, books don't pay much, but yeah. No, I have a really nice day job. Everyone there is really lovely. I never decided anything. Writing was my main hobby and my main interest since the age of, I don't know, 10. So it never felt like, oh, I'm going to definitely decide to try and write something. I was always doing it from late primary school, then all through high school, and then through university, and then, my 20s and early 30s. I was never not doing it anyway. So I never have a good answer to this question because it was so, I was always doing it anyway. I loved reading so much that it just made sense to try and do writing myself. It always seemed to me like, loving footy or cricket and then going and playing it on the weekends. It just seemed it was my version of that, really.
It's actually a good answer to that question, though. It reminds me a bit of Charles Bukowski. He famously said, and I think it's the epitaph on his grave, it says, "Don't try." And by that, he doesn't mean don't try anything. He means it should just come out of you. It should just happen. It should just be a passion that's in your bones.
Yeah, I mean, that's stuff. I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I wasn't doing it. I guess, and now I've published novels, it feels a bit more professional, although I'm not very good at being professional. Just even if I wouldn't know what to do, what if I wasn't doing that? If I didn't have a writing project on the go, I would feel, like I hadn't put my shoes on in the morning. It would be feel very strange.
Yeah. So this book, Limberlost, you wrote as part of a residency. So what was that experience like? Because your first two books, you were kind of writing in and around your day job. But I did see online that something about Limberlost, you were part of a residency, so you actually had really big chunks of time to be able to devote exclusively to writing Limberlost. What was that experience like? How did that impact your writing experience?
Yeah, it was great. For the first time, I took 3 months off work unpaid because I got this residency at the University of Tasmania. They gave me this big whack of cash, and it took them. I didn't get it for like 6 months, but anyway, I got this office and 3 months to just work on a book. It felt like I was wagging school, to be honest.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I just wrote most of that book. In that period, I was already well into it, and I kind of knew where I was going with it. And then I just had this time to do it. It felt like an idyllic lifestyle, to be honest.
Yeah, I bet.
I just focused on writing, and I'd go into this dingy little office and I'd come home. My wife loved it because I felt like I had an extra 10 hours in the day. I didn't have to go to work or go to meetings. No meetings for 3 months. Yeah. Amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I did all the cooking and cleaning and shopping for 3 months, which I didn't quite like doing that. But yeah, my wife says she felt like she had a house husband, which
So she loves the residencies. That's awesome. So how did that come about, actually?
Oh, I just applied for it. It was the year that I had it. I was really fortunate. It was a really narrow frame of people who you had to be like mid-career, and you had to live in Tasmania.
Yeah.
And you had to have published 1 or 2 books, but not more than 4. I kind of looked at it, and I never apply for grants or residencies. This is the first one. I just never do it because it all just seems like too much hassle to me. And the whole competitive system of applying for grants from the government just feels big. I don't know. I don't like competing with other writers.
Yeah.
Just feels shitty and weird. The government are generally a pack of pricks about it. So like, I just don't, and you have to write these really formal letters, and I'm just like, way, like, I'd rather be really tired and have a job than have to deal with like bureaucrats. Sorry if there's any bureaucrats in the audience. I just don't speak the language. But it was such a tiny frame of reference. I thought if I apply, there's probably only like 2 or 3 people on the entire island who actually qualify. So it seems
okay. Yeah.
And I, snagged it, and it was awesome. I wish I could do it again.
Yeah. So working in advertising, because that's a whole nother form of writing, completely different sort of style. Like, what do you do you notice that specific skill set brings anything to your writing at
Not
all?
really.
Not really?
Not really. People always ask me this question, and I guess because I've been doing it for a while, I just don't find advertising very interesting. Everyone else does. Like, everyone watches Mad Men and The Gruen, and it's just a day job, really. The thing that is, it's, I go to an office, I have all these meetings, everyone complains about our clients. Go eat some like too warm sushi. Come home. Like, it's not cool. But the thing it has helped me with, and I worked in Melbourne for a couple of years when I started out, is it on a line level, like on actual writing level, hasn't really helped me at all, because copywriting is not like fiction writing. It's very functional. But it has given me like a really thick skin and a really strong work ethic, because like I started out writing Officeworks catalogs. All the headlines you see in Officeworks catalogs, I did that for like 18 months.
Robbie's your man.
Speaking, at one point for 3 months, we weren't allowed to use the word office anymore. So,
there you go.
Just some corporate weird thing. Anyway, that was funny. But you'd write like hundreds and hundreds of headlines, and then I try and sneak in to see my boss to get him to approve them by the end of the day. And generally, he'd kind of finally have time to look at them, hold up the page, and go, no, shit, no, crap, no, hope you haven't got plans tonight, no, maybe, no. And so that was just work. And I just got used to it. And you get a little bit better and you learn other things. So now I find being edited by my editor at Text Publishing wonderful. Editors in the publishing world are like, oh, hey, I just want to chat with you a little bit about this. I think it's all great, but there's a small thing I think we could adjust to improve. And I'm like, great, please help me make it better. This is...
You're used to the thick red marker and the no. Yeah, that's cool. That's great.
Yeah, and you haven't called me a moron who probably should find a new job. So I just feel like it is an honor to be edited, and I enjoy it. And it also just means I just keep working, because I'm just used to being like, you got to get heaps done, or you won't get a weekend, or you won't get an evening. So
So have you? Like, I'm really fascinated by this concept of writers having to kill their darlings. And, sometimes, I mean, all creatives have to do that, I suppose, when they're working towards an end product. They might be in love with some sort of aspect, but it doesn't necessarily serve the narrative, and they have to let it go. Did you come across anything like that in Limberlost? Because every word is bloody golden. And I just wonder, what were the bits that didn't, was there anything that didn't make it? Or was it kind of, not too many drafts and a hole from early on?
Oh, well, thank you very much. Really glad you liked it.
We loved it.
Thank you. Yeah,
we've had a massive response to this book. Our club has loved it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I really appreciate it. I'm really glad. Lots of stuff gets cut out. I guess a lot of something that really I think about a lot is not. This probably isn't a very literary thing to say. I just really don't want to waste people's time. Like, a book costs what, $32.99, or you've got to go down to the library and get it, and that's your time. And then you spend however many hours reading it. Like, people have, and people don't always have a lot of money. Like, I actually think, so when I'm editing or writing my work, and I often think, does this add anything to the text? Does this create any atmosphere? Does this enhance character? Does this reveal anything? Does it enhance the story, or am I just adding something in for unnecessary exposition? Or even worse, am I just showing off a little?
Right.
And I feel like I'm just showing off a little, which might be this kill your darling thing. Like, oh, look at this lovely turn of phrase. If it's not advancing the story or building character, and the hardest one is creating a sense of atmosphere for the world, for the story to live in, particularly around place, then I get rid of it. That atmosphere stuff is really important to me. I think I really want my books to feel like atmospheric, and for like you're kind of really immersed in the landscape of them. But anything else where I think I might just be, just showing off a little, then on the second round I quite brutally cut it out. And you're like, no qualms of doing that with yourself, just
being able to just let things go?
Yeah, I'm very unimpressed by my own writing.
Yeah, okay.
I don't sit around being really.
I think you're the only one in Australia, but go on.
No, it's not that I'm not trying to be falsely modest. It's just that I don't sit around going, oh, this is so wonderful. How could I get rid of it?
Right. Yeah,
I just
yeah.
think, no. And then I just cut it out and I put it in like this really long Word doc that's saved on my desktop.
Yeah.
And I go, maybe I'll make it work somewhere else another time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And then I move on. I have some other friends who say like, oh, they just sit around, they write something so good and then they have to go for a walk because they're so happy with what they've done. That never happened to me. I mostly just worry that I've fucked everything up. Yeah. Sorry for my language.
No, that's all right. No. So, where did the idea for Limberlost come from?
Most of it comes from stories my grandfather used to tell me about his life as a boy.
Yeah, right.
He grew up, a lot of his life is similar to some of the stories in the novel. And, I grew up in the 90s, mucking about on a bike at the beach and playing Game Boy and just being a general 90s rat kid.
Yeah.
And he grew up in the 30s and 40s, hunting rabbits, trapping rabbits, sailing his own boat, chopping down forests and doing all these things that to me felt like they came from another world. And we lived at the same time. And for him, he may as well have been talking about, I don't know, the fall of Troy for how far off it all felt to me, like these myths of an older world. And he didn't even think those stories were that interesting. He just thought they were normal. And my cousins and I were also fascinated. And I always wanted to try and write a book that brought that world to life and I wanted the book to feel as mythical as the stories had felt to me when he told them to me, while also still being believable and not a fairy tale. And that was kind of a guiding idea for the book. I was like, I wanted to feel like this kind of miniature epic of just a simple man's life. And that's really where the idea came from. Yeah.
And it just blew us all away. Sorry, excuse me. It blew us all away. Like a bunch of us have talked about the book before tonight. You were able to have this beautiful snapshot, this panoramic of Ned's whole life in like 230 odd pages. It was awesome, Robbie. Like you really felt like the reader feels really invested in Ned's life and don't feel like we've missed anything. Like in the 230 pages, I don't know, it was just so well done. And
thank you.
Yeah, that's not really a question or anything. It's just that, it was fabulous. You did it really, really well. Oh, a few people have said that they're, a bit scared of quolls now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, they're pretty feisty. My British publisher thought I'd made quolls up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like, oh, what a marvelous creation. Sorry, no, they said, what a marvelous creation.
Yeah, marvelous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw all these links to quolls, the videos, but like, no, they're real.
Yeah. So, that's interesting too, like that your publisher thought that, because like I'd mentioned before, your first two books, and I've got them here, the Rain, Heron and Flames, there's a lot of magical realism. So I suppose after was it the same publisher? Yeah, Text Publishing the whole way. Maybe they thought did make up quolls, because you make up some amazing creatures and characters in these two books. So kind of can't blame them, Robbie.
Yeah, no, I don't blame them at all. I just thought it was funny.
They're real, it is. Yeah.
I've always just thought of quolls as like, like a possum, the most normal creature in the world, but I guess most people live in bigger cities.
Yeah,
no, I just went with the story, really. I never really have been too conscious of putting in imaginative elements or magical realism I know I do it, but I don't sit around and think about it before doing it.
Yeah.
It's just whatever I feel is the best way to tell a story.
Yeah.
And adding these imaginative, and in my second book, using a kind of creation myth and infusing it in a landscape.
Yeah.
That was interesting to me, but like I don't have a big chart or a big plan thinking about what I'm going to do. It's whatever best serves the story that seems to be working within the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with Limberlost, it just wasn't necessary. No point did I feel I needed to make anything too imaginative up.
Yeah.
Because the characters in the story they just felt enough to me.
Yeah. Yep.
But it definitely wasn't like, oh, I'm now going to tell a much more realist story for my third book, and next I'm going to do a crime. No, it just comes out.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I've read a few reviews that really do point that out and talk about, you know, exactly kind of what I just parroted back from the stuff I'd read, and I'm halfway through Flames actually, and I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, that was pointed out in some interviews, you know, that idea that this is a departure for Robbie from, you know, magical realism and more, you know, more into you know, realism, fiction writing, and almost memoir, blah blah blah. So that's really interesting to hear you say that at no point did you plot that down and think that's the direction I'm going to go. It's just that the story came out how it came out onto the page. I like that.
Yeah. And I told my grandfather I was writing the book and it was about his stories. And before he died, he told me, don't put any of that magical stuff in it. And I thought, I wasn't going to anyway. I was already into it then, but I thought and I said, oh, and he said it doesn't need it. And I thought, you know, he's right. I didn't do it for that reason, but he was right.
So I'm chopping and changing through my questions. I'm not following through as the list that I presented you, sorry. But the whale, the quoll, and the boat, I suppose if we could look at these as characters or elements of the book, they all have such a tremendous impact on Ned's sense of self and place in the world. Really, really was beautiful to read. Can you share a bit about where each of these aspects came from, like how you decided to put them in Limberlost?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
No, with the whale, I really wanted the novel to kind of keep returning to this moment in Ned's life when he was young that almost serves as a fulcrum point for how he understands the world and himself.
Yeah.
I think we all often have these moments in our lives where there's a particular event, particularly in our childhood or adolescence, where we feel it changes us irrevocably and we suddenly become a person. And it could be anything, but we often have that kind of moment. And for Ned, I wanted to have one that's connected both to his relationship with his father and brothers and also to nature and misunderstanding of the natural world and this, you know, misguided fear that transitions to wonder. And I wanted that almost to be how Ned views the world constantly. He's such in touch with the natural world, but he never really comes to understand it. And he never really comes to understand himself either, but he has this deep reverence for the landscape and the place he grows up in and the river and the forest, but he never really interrogates it. He just innately knows that it's important to him and that he can't live without it. Yeah. And I want whale to be this other experience he has that kind of surges that emotion up in him throughout his life, because it's such an intense experience that isn't exactly what he expected. And the other things we talked about, the quoll is another example of that. It's, he knows when he traps it that he should kill it. And he'd make a lot of money off the pelt and he'd be protecting his sister's chickens. But something within him tells him not to. And again, that's never particularly thought out or explained. Even his father kind of goes along with it when he finds out, because they just know this is something that it would be a great disservice to the world to kill without ever getting to the bottom of why. Because I think in those instances, we never really get to the bottom of why. But we just push on with trying to do what we think is right. And I think Ned is a character who, I think he tries to do what's right more often than he doesn't. But he never really gets a grip on the reasons for things.
I thought it was really interesting. You know, Ned had, was holding quite a lot of anxiety about trying to get that recognition and that acknowledgement from particularly his father, but also from his sister Maggie. And he always felt like he was just missing the mark and not quite being seen or being heard the way he wanted to be. But then his father always seemed to surprised me as the reader anyway. Like he was so sure that his dad was going to be cross, or he was so sure his dad was going to have this response, and his dad really surprised you and actually came in and was, this man with of few words and not particularly emotive, but just kind of knew how to land in the situation and say and do the right thing that really supported Ned's intention. And it was beautiful to see the dynamic between the father and son. It was really beautiful.
No, thank you. I really wanted that to be present in the book and in their relationship, that there can be this kind of typically Australian male characters who display some elements of stoicism and emotional guardedness, but that doesn't mean that they're rough or callous. Often that sort of character is seen as like very blokey or violent. And I wanted there to be within Ned's father and Ned, and even to an extent his brothers, like quite a strong degree of tenderness.
Yeah.
He and his father are very tender men. They do not have the tools to express that or to talk about it. They only have the tools which their culture gives to them, which is to be strong and silent.
Yeah.
But it's not who they are, really. And that comes through in how they treat each other.
Yeah.
And what they do for each other. And it's never there in what they say. And I really wanted that to be a really big part of the book, because I think it's an underrepresented part of Australian masculinity in Australian literature.
Yeah.
But I think it's really true of a lot of people and a lot of the different relationships we have.
Cruel, she's quoted to say, if you get the landscape right, the characters will step out of it and they'll be in the right place. I know that you're quite fond of Annie's writing, and I wanted to know what you kind of thought of that statement, because I think that this applies so much to Limberlost, the way that you wrote about the nature. So I wonder, with your writing process, what the hierarchy is. Like, do you kind of develop characters first, or is it the setting that really gets attention first? Because when reading Limberlost, that really felt like it. The landscape was there and the characters just stepped out of it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Annie Proulx, one of the writers who influences me more than anyone else, I think. And I totally agree with her in that statement. I don't know. I think it'd be very generous to call what I do a process. But it definitely doesn't feel very much like a process to me. But I definitely start with place and landscape and try and write about that. Because if I start just writing about characters straight away, they just feel silly or like caricatures or sketches to me. Until they're situated and connected to a place, and I don't know who they are.
Yeah. Okay.
I really strongly agree with that statement. Because I don't know who I am without connection to where I'm from. And I'm also, and in some ways, as Ned is, very keenly aware of the tenuousness of my connection to, Lutruwita, Tasmania, where I'm from. I think my family have been here for 5 or 6 generations, just convict stock, with no legitimacy here at all, but here we are.
Yeah.
But that very much informs who I am and how I view the world. And I don't know how to write about someone or any character who doesn't have some sort of connection to a place or a landscape. Landscape in particular. I might be wrong, but I don't know if I'll be writing about big cities anytime soon, because I like them, I just don't understand them. And every time I read a novel where someone's in a big city and they're name checking Fifth Avenue or heading down Spring Street, I just feel like I'm reading brands, and not very interesting to me. But I do think place is where it begins, and then people kind of swim out of it, and then tension and story comes from there.
Which character came to you first in Limberlost?
Oh, Ned.
Ned, for sure. Yeah.
Ned, very much. I thought about him for a long time. About who he was and how he conducted himself, how he saw the world, and how he treated people and how he reacted to things. I I spent a lot of time just once I knew I was setting it in this place and where he was from, just trying to figure him out. Yeah, Ned very much. And then all the other characters all kind of came through within the writing of the book. I kind of knew them. Weirdly, I spent a lot of time really trying to get a grip on his oldest brother, Bill, who's barely in the book at all. He's only mentioned a couple of times. But he was such a pivotal figure for who Ned was that I needed to know a lot about Bill and exactly his role in the family and who he was and what sort of person he was. And then in the brutal cutting of the book, he's barely a shadow. But in my mind, he's really, really important. So it's funny how it all works out.
Yeah, but he still comes through as really important. And you're right, he really only features a couple of times. But that's so convincing. Like, and then you know, we do talk about spoilers a bit in this book club too, because we've all read the book. So
good. Sorry if I'm spoiling.
No. We absolutely go right into it because we've all read the book and we're here to talk about it. So yeah, you know, the final scene with Bill, it's just so beautiful. And quite a few of us have talked about it, that we all just kind of had to sit for a moment and just really, you know, put the book down and sit in that moment and be on that driveway and feel the weight of that family in that point in time. It was beautifully done. It was really, really nice. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm normally very hesitant with my first two books. It took me a long time to figure out any sort of ending, but I always knew this is where the book ended. Always. From
that's
the very
interesting.
beginning. Well, early, it came to me early on. I had one thing in mind, and then I went for a walk around the mountain here, and that came to me very early on. And and there was no other way. I just knew that it had to get there. And I've never been so sure of anything.
Yeah, right. Wow.
I just had to get there.
Yeah.
Being that whale.
Oh yes, a few. I'm not sure. Are you actually able to hear the audience, or not even remotely?
No, I heard a very nice mumble.
Oh, lovely. So that very lovely mumble was our wonderful member Venetia, who was just commenting on the moment of when Bill and Ned, when they're looking in the whale's eye. That was really, really beautiful. Really quite a haunting scene, actually. What kind of research did you do for this book? Did you get up close with whales, or did you go and spend times tracking down quolls, or what?
I did a lot of bushwalking and a lot of mucking about on the Tame River, but that's kind of where I'm from anyway. So I went really research trips. They were short drives away from where I already was. And I didn't go specific whale watching or anything. I have seen whales before, but I did go watch. If you ever come to Hobart, there's a wildlife recovery park here that's rehabilitates injured animals, and they have quolls. So I went and watched quolls running around a lot.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was really helpful. But other than that, no, I didn't do too much research other than like I already know the area extremely well. And everywhere I write about, I've at least done a fair bit of walking around. But I'm not a big researcher other than that. I made a real fool of myself at a writers' festival recently because I said I don't really do any research, and the other panelists were like, I spent 6 months in the archives. And I look like a dickhead. But no, I just am really wary, particularly, and I was with this book. I'm really wary of historical novels where people do 2 years of research and then they just cram the book full of the facts because they're like, they don't want to waste the 2 years of research.
Right. Yeah.
And again, that comes down to my approach, which is don't waste anyone's time and don't pad a book with unnecessary details.
Yeah.
So I got really worried that if I did so much research into what life was like or what the period was like, that I would just not be able to stop myself from rendering everything as historically perfect and kind of photorealistic in a way that wouldn't actually help the book at all. All the elements, I just did enough to make sure I wasn't getting anything really wrong. Because you don't want to get letters. That's, saying, oh, you got this bit wrong. So I made sure I didn't get anything wrong. I did do that sort of research, but only
That
what
got quite a few laughs. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, you don't want, Terence from blah 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 writing a big long letter how they didn't actually invent that particular sort of nut and bolt until 7 years after when your book is novel. I don't know. I just thought I'll just avoid all of that by not even doing it.
Yeah. Do you know, it was really lovely too to be reading about this period of time where there wasn't heaps of computer technology. Well, it's not mentioned at all. Because it wasn't, relevant, and it was really beautiful just to be, in a book that there's no mentions of phones, or there's no trying to translate texting and stuff. It was so lovely.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's just what I'm interested in. I like reading. I like reading and writing about natural landscapes, and like everyone, I had to deal with modern technology all the time anyway, and there's no, I don't have to put it in my books, so I don't. There's plenty of really great novels that do contend with the weirdness of modern life and modern technology. Lots do, and they do it really well. And I just think, great, that means I don't have to, because I would get bored.
So you wrote so beautifully about the boat experience for Ned, finding the boat, stripping it back, fixing the boat up to make it safe to go on water. Sorry, I don't have the lingo. I'm not a boat person myself, but have you spent a lot of time in boats, or was this something that came from your grandfather's experiences, or?
Yeah, mostly came from my grandfather's experiences, and I've spent a little bit of time on boats, but I'm not a good sailor or anything like that. No, I really wanted to write more about a connection to an inanimate object that feels like so much more than that. I did, I talked to a lot of people, and I went to a wooden boat museum, and so I guess I did do a bit of research in that aspect, actually. Because that was really important to make that feel real. But yeah, it was more about talking to my grandfather and his connection with his boats, and how they felt, and trying to bring that to life, rather than any of my own experiences. I don't really write about my own experiences. I'm not a very interesting person. Hopefully my books are, but I was just trying to bring that relationship to life, because I was fascinated by it, and even though I've never had that, it felt so tangible and real to me. So I just hoped it would feel tangible and real to other people.
I felt when reading it, and I don't know what our other members think, but reading this book and knowing the time and place when Ned was, his interaction, like thinking back on the whale, and the way that the whale was described as mad, and the intensity of that, and the quoll, the ferocity of the quoll, and it being captured and caged in the crate, and it just kind of felt like felt really symbolic to the anxieties that everyone might have been feeling at that time.
Well, I felt set off on the boat, that relief.
Yeah, right. So to carry him away. Right. So this is a comment about the boat being able to just really symbolically let him detach from all of those anxieties and things that he was having to deal with, on Limberlost.
Yeah, very much.
Time.
The boat to Ned is just freedom. From everything. And to him, he views it freedom in a very direct way, as in he can sail up and down the river, he can go wherever he wants. It's akin to a kid in the 90s getting their P's. Just the most, but in a much more visceral, connected to the landscape way. I suppose that there are those metaphorical elements there too. I mean, they're definitely present, but I think it works better when they come from something direct rather than anything too loose. And for Ned, it's he just wants to escape.
Yes. Okay. So Kathy's just made a lovely comment about the connection to Ned's mother by, pouring himself into fixing this boat and getting out onto the water. because Maggie had kind of shared with him that his mother had loved being on the water too. Like, that was really beautiful. That was really strong, and that connection to mother through the boat.
Yeah, and it's the only real connection he has to it, and he doesn't think too directly about it because that's very hard for him to think about, and he never knew. So one of those things he finds himself doing without only really vaguely realizing why he's doing it. Particularly in the restoration, and then later in life going to Windermere to kind of seek that experience out.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things where he doesn't really understand about himself, but he still, acts in a very strong way. And it's only later that it kind of, he thinks, oh, that's why I did it. And I think, Ned's like that. I think a lot of people like that, in that we don't really know why we do things. Everyone who knows exactly why they're doing something, guesses an accountant. He's
So how does it feel to have finished a book for you? So when you create these beautiful worlds and characters, then you publish the book and it's out there, how does that feel for you, Robbie? Where do you put Ned?
I've realized that after I finish a book and send the final edit to my publisher, I get very depressed for about a week or two. Like, I just completely lose all energy and have no will to get up in the morning. And first time it happened, I thought I had the flu. I was like, what is happening to me?
Yeah, okay.
Second time it happened, I was like, this is weird. And my wife pointed out, didn't this happen with Flames? And now with Limberlost, I was like, oh, this is going to really knock me around.
Yeah.
It did. And so it's really weird. It's not, I don't feel like really sad or morose or anything. I just, all the air's let out of my tires.
Big physical response.
Yeah, big physical response to, I guess, what is quite an intense emotional experience, getting book done.
Yeah.
And when it's out in the world, it's just a bit nervous, really, just that someone will hate it, or that, people will say you messed this up, you got it all wrong. And I just get nervous, basically. But I just try and stay busy. When the book's out, just, try and stay busy, and hopefully no one throws a rock at you.
Yeah. And it's on the long list, is that right, for the Miles Franklin?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's a really huge honor. I'm just really honored and touched by that. It's really cool. To be honest, it's really cool.
What does it mean for you and your writing to win writing awards?
They're really, really helpful. Because you get a bit of media, and it just helps you continue your career, which is most important to me. It just gives you like a big shiny signifier that you're good enough at this, that you should be allowed to keep doing it. That's the most important thing for me, I guess, is that it's a bit of external validation in what you're doing. But it's really cool. And it's easy to get caught up in them, and to caught up in, I made this short list, I didn't make this long list, I didn't get knowledge for that. People can get really anxious and caught up around it. But like this morning, I was asked to contribute to the big issues fiction edition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, awesome. It was really nice of them, really lovely. And I don't have time to do that at all. So I'm going to have to unfortunately say, thank you very much, I can't do it. But 10 years ago, between, I reckon, 2014 and 2017, I submitted to that every year, writing short stories, crossing my fingers, just wishing I get published in the big issue fiction. So I bought it every year, thought it was amazing. I thought one day I'll finally get published in that. And now they're asking me to be published, and I'm saying, sorry, I don't have time, I can't do it. So I'm very, very cognizant of my privilege and how lucky I am. And I was thinking about that all day, just thinking, like, whenever you get ahead of yourself, just remember how lucky you are to be in this position. I thought it was just really, it's a very strange experience to have something like that happen, but I feel very fortunate.
Actually, you were published in Mind Went Walking too, weren't you? Yeah. So a couple of the stories in that are two Albany Kinjalling authors. So our book club's going to be doing that book at the end of the year. And Sam Carmody and Sarah Drummond both contributed to that book, and they are Albany Kinjalling people. So they're going to come and chat with us. What was it like to contribute to a book like that?
Oh, that was great. Yeah, one of the editors is a mate of mine, Jock Sarong, and
oh wow, cool. That's
yeah.
a cool friend to have. That's awesome.
Yeah, Jock's very cool.
Yeah.
No, he asked me to contribute, and I love Paul Kelly. I'm just a huge fan of Paul Kelly. So yeah, it was a free hit. I was like, absolutely, please.
Yeah, wow. That's so cool.
Yeah. So I just got to pick a song, and yeah, it was great
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. What kind of time limit did you have for that?
Oh, I can't remember that now. I have no idea. I'm very sorry. Like I said, I'm very professional.
No, that's okay. That's all right. It's all right.
It
I
was
just
at
wonder
some
how
point
when they're
last
doing
year, he asked me to do it. I said I'd do it. At some
then it was
point in the
done.
year, I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. If it was more than 3 weeks ago, I can't tell you.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
Song.
Oh, what was the song? Do you remember which song you wrote?
Yes. Yeah, I wrote about the song Every Fucking City.
Ah, that is so fitting. That's awesome.
Yeah, it had a great. Yeah, I love that song, and
Yeah.
I wrote a very personal piece that went in there. So
Cool.
I
We
realized
look forward to reading it.
everyone else wrote fiction, and I think one of the other people who wrote a piece of memoir in there. So
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. We really look forward to reading that one. That's cool. That's what I think we're doing that book in November, which will be cool.
Cool. Yeah, there's some really great stories in there.
Yeah. So just quickly, what's one piece of advice that you would give to an aspiring author? And I'm sorry, I know sometimes questions like that can be a bit cringy, but you know, we have a lot of aspiring writers in our group. So what would be a bit of advice that you would give?
I mean, I guess the first one would be don't take any advice from me.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just very lucky.
Yeah.
I guess I'm very passionate, but I'm very lucky. The main one would be the obvious ones, like read as widely as you can, keep reading consistently and voraciously. And then, like I said earlier, just write what you want to read, and write something you're passionate about. I think passion is just as important, if not more important, than craft, because anyone can learn craft and how to write a sentence. You can go do an MFA or a PhD in creative writing and learn how to write just like most of the other books on the bookshelves that are a story with clean spare prose, with every fourth sentence having a slightly evocative piece of imagery, then back to the spare prose. But if you're not passionate about it, it doesn't matter. Sorry, I just probably made fun of 10 books on Australian bookshelves.
No, that's totally fine. So,
but yeah, if you don't really, really care, if you don't feel really passionately about what you're writing about, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, and you don't really give a shit, then people can tell. Readers are smart, and that's when people, when you find yourself just kind of rereading a sentence or drifting off at a page. I always think it's probably because either you're really tired, or the author's probably bored too, or going through the motions because they think this is what good writing is. I think passion is really important.
Anne Lamott, in her book Bird by Bird, her writing manual, she talks about something that she found writing taught her how to read, in terms of it made her, to be a writer made her a far better reader. What do you think of that? Yeah,
I mean, maybe. I've not read that book. I've heard it's really good. I don't read how to write books. Because I read one once, and John Marsden's one, and it was just, I loved John Marsden. Yeah, that book's stupid though. Look at a window, draw about the window. Shut up. Sorry, John Marsden's a living legend, but yeah.
No. But
that book did nothing for me. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been such a big reader that writing has taught me how to look out for why and how books are working well.
Yeah, okay.
I remember I studied English at university. And I got really frustrated in first year English because we were studying the Great Gatsby, and I knew it was good. I'd read it, and it really resonated with me. I thought it was just wonderful, but I couldn't have told you why. And then our lecturer just spent 3 weeks going through the historical background of what the book was really about. And I was sitting there just thinking, like, I know I can look at Wikipedia, I can look this up, but I want someone to tell me why it's good, like what's working within those sentences and that backdrop of characters. Why is it making me feel this way? And then we just kept talking about what the actual kind of historical moment in America was, and I just got annoyed. So writing has helped me understand. I can read Gatsby now and understand why it's good, where that emotion is coming from. I don't know if that means I'm a better reader, but I understand things a bit better. I hope that makes any sense. I'm a bit tired. Does that make any sense? No,
that's okay. That's no, that really did make sense. And I am conscious that it's, you're a couple of hours ahead, aren't you, of us? So I'm conscious of that. Does anybody have any questions for Robbie? Actually, someone's just asked, where did you get the name from? Limberlost.
Limberlost is the real name of the orchard my grandfather grew up on.
Oh, wow.
And that was taken from the novel A Girl of the Limberlost by Jean Stratton Porter, which was my great-grandmother's favourite book, and she named the orchard after that.
So that's true, because that's in the book. They actually talk about you talk about that in the book.
Yeah, that's based on reality. I just thought it's such a lovely, evocative word, and
it's beautiful. Yeah,
I grew up hearing about Limberlost, and I thought I'll name the book that. You can still go there. Like my mum's cousin John will probably yell at you, but you can still go there.
Yeah, wow.
When the boat trailer.
Oh God, yeah, we haven't talked about that. Yeah, sorry, right. Okay, so we have a couple of people are talking about how you evoked the smell of the hewn pine, and particularly with the crash, and when that beautiful boat just got broken into lots of pieces, and that was really, really very moving for a lot of our members. Yeah. Yes, yeah, they felt that it was like, no longer an inanimate object, but really felt like it was a living character.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. It kind of had to happen.
It had to happen.
Quite difficult to write, to be honest. Yeah, I feel very connected to that boat too, in a weird way. And I don't know. I guess some people think that I'm a very emotional person because of the books, but most of the emotion goes into the book. I generally think I'm a bit more cold-hearted than people think. But when I wrote that really, really messed me around a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would, because I knew I was going to do it, and then it happened. I had to go for a real walk. Yeah,
a real walk after that. Yeah. Well, any final questions for Robert? Yes. Yep. Oh, that's a good question. So Monica's just asking, was Callie always going to be Ned's wife?
Yes. Always.
Yeah, that's great. Because a lot of us, when we were reading it from very early on, the early interactions between Callie and Ned, we were like, this is special. This is going to be lifelong, this connection these two kids have got. And then, you see that there's the girl on the beach, but you don't know who she is and all of that kind of thing. And quite a few of us were like, oh, I hope that's Callie. And yeah, that's awesome.
How could you not marry her?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was wonderful.
Yeah, I'm glad it came through that way. Yeah, I wanted there to be a bit of doubt, but then once it's revealed, it feels inevitable. The way that kind of love sometimes does.
Yeah.
When you're not sure where it's going, and then when it arrives, it hits you like a train you're never going to get out of the way of.
I love too that you didn't really announce it either. It just all of a sudden you'd slipped Callie's name in, and that was all the confirmation that we needed. Like I really liked that. It wasn't this big reveal. Like it was just really, it was beautiful.
Yeah, again, the big reveal is showing off sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't need it. You just, and that's not what real life is like.
Yeah. One last question. Yes. Oh, I'm not sure you were able to hear that. There was a lot of praise for that beautiful book, for your beautiful writing, and then wondering if you've been approached at all by the Hobart Wooden Boat Festival to be the ambassador.
No, it's not every 2 years, but I went along this year and had a good look. Yeah, I just walked around. I always walk around when it's on. But yeah, no, and there's a lot of guys there's a lot of hue and pine boats. Some of you might have been there. But no, I haven't had any correspondence with them, but I wouldn't expect to. They're a secretive group of masterclass people. You know, I think they're a bit like the Masons, I think. So I just go along as a punter and enjoy it. They're beautiful, beautiful creations.
Any final questions? No, all good. Well, look, thank you so much for being with us this evening, Robbie. This has been an absolute pleasure. Limberlost was beautiful. I think it's going to be a book that's going to stay with us for a long time. Yeah, I think this is one I'm going to continue to buy and give to people and continue to recommend. Thank you. What are you working on next?
No, thank you very much, and thank you very much to everybody for reading it and coming along. I know I'm on the other side of the country and a little bit sleep deprived because I have a baby, but I just want to say thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. I'm working on a new book. I'm not going to really talk about it too much. If it comes up, everything about it will be different.
Yeah.
But yeah, working on a new book. Hopefully in this not too distant future. I'm working.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us. And if ever you get back over to this side, big applause.
I was in Albany in 2019 and absolutely loved it.
Yeah, you came to Albany?
Yeah, I went to a wedding in Eagle Bay and then drove around to Albany and made a little picnic of it. I went to a pub in Albany and it was on some random night and all these men were standing in a circle, like doing sea shanties. Does anyone know? It was amazing.
Right. Yeah.
So I should tell you that is going to be a scene in my newest book. Because it left such a strong impression on me. All these men standing in a circle doing the sea shanty singing.
Our community is very proud of our shantymen. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was incredible, and it's going in my next book.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. Well, if ever you're back this way again, please come and make yourself known to us, and we'll all gather. Yeah, we will gather. We will flock.
Well, I love that. Thank you very much. Thanks, Billie-Jo, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much. Thank you.